duck walks into a library, takes 3 books, takes them to the counter and checks them out from the librarian. The librarian doesn't think much about it. 15 minutes later, the duck comes back with 3 more books to check out. Leaves the library. The librarian thinks that's a little strange, but doesn't do anything about it. 15 minutes after that, the duck comes back with 3 more books and checks them out of the library. And the librarian thinks, all right, something's up. So she follows the duck out of the library, and she follows the duck down to the pond. And at the pond, she sees the duck give the books to a frog. And the frog says, read it, read it, read it. Isn't that awful? My father told me that joke a while ago. He saves them up, and then he likes to tell them to me because we have similar senses of humor. So I wanted to thank you all. If you're just joining me today for the first time, episode 3, I had a giveaway, and what I asked people to do for the giveaway was to send me their very best joke that was appropriate for kids, since I am a private music teacher. And I have to tell you, it was so much fun. The jokes kept coming in, and every night at about, at supper time, Nicholas would ask me, did you get any more jokes today? Can you tell me any more jokes? And he thought they were pretty funny. Sarah and John rolled their eyes most of the time, but Nicholas and I have the same sense of humor, and we thought they were all pretty darn good. So many of them I had heard before, since I have taught many children for many years, but there were a few that I hadn't heard and a few that I really liked, just some really good jokes. So the winner of the giveaway was, I believe your YouTube name is A Grateful Thread, and your joke was, I should explain that. I'm terrible at telling jokes. This is why I need them written down, and then I can practice them. For those not in North America, because I think in the States you have a product called Tide that is, it's a laundry detergent, and in Canada it's quite a popular laundry detergent. So the joke goes, why do Canadians wash their clothes in Tide? Because it's too cold outside. I know, right? I know. So that was my favorite joke, and there were many. My second favorite, probably almost as close, was the knock knock joke. Old lady who, and I didn't know you could yodel. That was also a favorite, really close. But I had to go with the Canadian joke this time because I do think that all of my students will really think that that's quite funny. So thank you. And if a grateful thread, I've left you a comment on your joke down below. And if you could please send me a message and we'll get in touch, and I'd like for you to choose your bag, and I'll send you your pattern as well. So thanks for playing along, everybody. I thought that was pretty fun. So I'm sure I will do another giveaway at some point in the future because it was fun. Just a little bit of taking care of business before we move on. As you can see, I am back off the grid, and I am up here for the next few weeks at least. So this episode, episode 4, and most likely episode 5 will be coming from up here. That being said, I know I have mentioned in the past that we have limited data, and when I get the comments on YouTube, I don't know of how to get the comments other than I've tried checking the notifications, but in order for me to read them and like them and reply to them, it loads the video, which really uses a lot of data for me. So what I'm going to ask is, for the next month or so, on these episodes that I put up, if you have a question that you would like answered, if you could please head over to my blog, which is www.offthegridneedlearts.com, and leave me a message there. Leave me a comment there. I am really going to try harder to put a few more posts up on the blog. It's been I've had a few too many pans in the fire lately, so the blog's been a little neglected, but I do check for comments there. So if you want to leave me a comment there, or you can send me an email at caroline@macoutpost.com, or the other one is caroline@evertote.com. So, hello and welcome. There, now I've done the whole joke bit at the beginning and I have neglected to introduce myself. So if you're new to the podcast, my name is Caroline, and this is my Off the Grid Needlearts podcast from the stash pile. You can find me on Instagram at Off the Grid Needlearts, and also my blog, and I'm on Ravelry as carriefluter, and what else? There's always, I need a little checklist, and I tend to fly by the seat of my pants, so I don't have it written down, which would be smart. The other Instagram account that I have is my small business with my sister-in-law called Evertote, and we make bags. We sew knitting bags and cross-stitch project bags. So I will have the information up on the bottom of the screen. So there we go. I guess that's it for introduction. And if you're joining me again, if you've watched before, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back to see me again. This has been pretty fun. So to start the show, I have some show and tell. Today I have to show you a project that I finished last summer while I was up here. This was a kit project that we did at a retreat that my local needlework shop, they host a retreat twice a year. And in fact, this October is going to be our last retreat at our original location. And I believe we're looking into where to go next. But there's some things coming down the pike for that. My local needlework shop is called Thread and Eye, and that's in London, Ontario, in Canada. I'm coming from Canada, Ontario, Canada. My home during the school year is in London, and during the summer I live near Prairie Sound, Ontario. It's not northern Ontario, but we're more northern than the majority of the population that live sort of south, central, southwest Ontario. And we live on a small island out in Georgian Bay with no power. We are off the grid. So we have solar power, we have propane for our stove and our lights, and we have a backup generator in case all else fails. So we make do, and we love it here. I have spent the last, oh boy, let's see. Well, I met my husband when I was 16, and I mean, we didn't get married when I was 16, but I've known him since I was 16, and I have been coming to his family cottage since I was 17 or 18. His parents built here on this island back in the 60s, and late 60s, early 70s, and they owned 2 pieces of land on this small island. It's about 75 acres, this island, and there are 6 other cottages. There are 4 other cottages on this island, as well as our 2, so 6 total. And the middle of the island and the entire other side of the island are still crown land owned by the government, and that will most likely stay that way forever and ever. So we have, my husband designed and built this small cottage back in 2010. I can't remember. I always forget this. It feels like we've lived here forever. But I'm going to put in a few pictures at the end of this episode. If you're interested in seeing, sort of how we live, and I post pictures of the island and sort of day-to-day life at times on my Instagram accounts, both Off the Grid Needlearts and the Evertotes account as well. The Evertotes account is more from a small business side, more interesting of, how I run a sewing business off the grid using our solar panels, and, mail delivery can be interesting at times. Because we're on an island, the weather can be unpredictable. Georgian Bay water, the weather can be unpredictable, and so it can be calm in the morning, and by 1 o'clock in the afternoon you can have 2-meter waves. So you really have to keep an eye on the forecast. The marine forecast is a staple on my apps that I check, as is Environment Canada. And so we're always aware of the weather and what is going on. If you're familiar with the group of 7 painters, you will have seen artwork that depicts the scenery from where I am from here. The sort of windswept trees that seem like they're growing sideways because the wind can be so fierce here, but it's beautiful. And it is part of the Canadian Shield, so we are on rock. It's a very unique, special place, and our sort of eventual life goal is to live here, at least more than we do now. But the children are happy in London, and for now, that's how we go. So anyways, enough introduction. That took way longer than it should have, because let's get to the stitching. Show and tell. Again, show and tell. This was a design that was a kit at the Thread and I retreat, and as is usual, the usual way that I handle things, I think I finished it 2 years after the retreat. But I did finish it. This is a canvas design. A couple of episodes ago, I showed a blue canvas, counted canvas design, and I'm a big fan. It's a unique way of creating an embroidery piece that's a little faster sometimes than, well, not sometimes, always. It is faster than cross stitch. You can cover more ground a little more quickly, but it does tend to be a bit hard on the hand because the fabric is stiff, the needle is bigger, and it's addictive, so you don't want to stop. So you get going and going, and then you notice your hand is really aching, so you have to take a break. But this was just a small design. This is a Needle Delights original, and here you go. That was the design. It's a Color Delights. Now the colorway that was given in the pattern is called Rust. But what Kathy did, Kathy is the owner, Kathy and Neil, husband and wife, are the owners of Thread and I in London. What they did was they put together different color combinations, different threads that were used in this pattern. And at the retreat, you were offered your choice. So if rusts weren't really your thing, then there were blues or purples, or there was one version I think that was green and gold. They were all beautiful. You couldn't go wrong with any that you chose. So because I think I may have been teaching the other small class that was going on while most of the participants were doing this kit, and I was either participating in the other class or I was teaching the Tamari class, which I mentioned last week is Japanese embroidered thread balls. And I did teach a small class on that at one of the retreats. This may have been the one. And because I liked what the other participants were doing so much, I bought the kit that they were doing. So that was the design. And what Neil did was he has a framing part of the business, and he's an incredible framer, and he laces the pieces. He laces the needlework properly in the traditional way, and he does a fantastic job. He's very good at picking out matte colors and frames that are very complementary. So what he did was he put together a sort of coaster kit to go with the pattern, so that when you were done, you could put it into a framed little piece and it would be a coaster. See? Ta-da! So, and you can see what he did on the back. He put He put felt corners so you can protect your table. And I thought this was a really clever idea that would be fairly easy to replicate yourself if you could find similar supplies at I don't know all the names, but in Canada we have Michael's, and Hobby Lobby is in the States, and I think I don't know, but if you're in London, go and ask Neil. I couldn't imagine wanting to put my drink on this, wanting to put my coffee on this, because I have kids and big dogs and everybody's a little bit messy, and I just thought I would be very upset if a cup of coffee got spilled on this. So I actually hang it on the wall here, and it's in my kitchen so that I can enjoy it. And you can see we have a lot of pine. The entire cottage is pine. So we have pine walls and pine floors. My cubbies are pine, and the ceiling is that's actually drywall and is painted white. And we have some large beams in here. I'll try to take some pictures and maybe post those on Instagram later if anyone's interested. If not, well, I'll just keep it to myself. I don't need to overshare. You can tell me if I am. So again, that was Needle Delights Originals, and it took me maybe a week of not very much effort. It was one of those things that was really, really fun to stitch and put together. You can just see the little bit of sparkle metallic there in the border. If I'm not mistaken, that was a Rainbow Gallery thread metallic, which if you've worked with a lot of metallics, there are some that are fun to work with and some that really aren't. And that one is a good one. I enjoy that one quite a bit. So there you go. So that's my first part of show and tell, and that's really the most finished show and tell that I have for you today. The next bit of show and tell is kind of, it's a finished stitching piece, but it's not a finished object. I think they call them FFOs. So this is an FO, but not an FFO. This was one of the hands-on designs, a year in chalk. I think this was April. Yes, this was April. Hello Spring. And I did buy the series, the 12, one for each month, one design for each month. And I do like the way that they're displayed here. Kathy and Neil had done the entire set in their shop, and Neil had made a board, and they had these, the pieces were stitched and finished and then laced, and then on the back he had put a piece of Velcro, and then a matching piece of Velcro on the board was glued on, and then every month he could change them out and display them in the shop. And I thought that was quite clever. But I would, because I am, if you haven't figured it out already, you're going to figure it out. I have too many projects on the go, and I will never finish all 12. Maybe ever. I don't know. I want to finish all 12, but will I finish all 12? I don't know. So I stitched it, and my plan for it, instead of having them done individually, I'm going to turn this into a tote bag. Like I did the coffee design into a Notions tote, I'm going to make this design into a like a larger open-topped tote bag with straps, I'm thinking. Because I think that would be quite nice. But I don't really have any fabric in my stash. I don't have enough fabric in my stash. We never have enough fabric in our stash that I'm happy with, that's a good coordinate. So maybe I'll have to do a little shopping. We'll see. But I enjoyed stitching this quite a bit. So I think when I go home, and I'm home in September, I may choose another one of these and have it as my little go-to project. It's always good to have a small project. I tend to have all sort of massive projects on the go, and it's nice to have some smaller ones as well to give you a little bit of a breather every now and then. Okay, moving right along. I finished the Little House Needleworks the ABC samplers, the one that has the alphabet with the houses. I finished Dolores and Edward's house. Isn't it sweet? I love that. And I finally got those trees done. So there's A through E, all done. And I finished that a few nights ago. And I don't know what took me so long, because there was hardly anything left for me to finish on there. I could have been done it eons ago, but I just procrastinated, and well, there you go. Too many other things to do. So that's done. Hooray! So next, and I'm going to start it tonight so that I get going on it, is the F, G, and H. That's next. And because all of the threads, most of the threads are carried over, there's only a couple that are different, and maybe I'll look in my stash for the ones that I don't have with me. I'll see if I can replace them with something else that will work. But that's next, adding on to there. So that's my show and tell. Oh, I have something else kind of different for show and tell. Just like when you were at school and you would think of all the things that you wanted to bring to school to show your friends. So I thought I wanted to show you, I think, you know, stitchers and crafters in general, we often have sort of favorite things that we like to use. And I love to hear about, you know, things that other people really like to use that make what we do even more enjoyable for us. So I thought I would share with you something that I really like to use. And this is something, I practically live at Thread and I. They're a couple of my favorite people, and it is something that I buy at their store. It's called Lavisher Lotion Bar. And the original packaging a few years ago came in a silver little round tin, and now they come in this plastic one. And it is a lotion bar, and it's non-greasy. So I can use this and then immediately pick up my stitching. And I don't know about you, but I have problems with really, really dry cuticles. And there's nothing more irritating than a cuticle snagging on your delicious silk thread while you're trying, valiantly to get a few stitches in. So I like to use this before I stitch, and anything that's vanilla I'm going to like. Really, it's anything at the Body Shop or scented candles. Vanilla is always my favorite. So my favorite of the scent, these come in various different flavors, and this jasmine vanilla, it smells so good. So as you can see, I'm almost out. I think I have a new one at home that I haven't opened yet. So anyways, if you see them around, you might remember that I said that I liked it, because sometimes it's nice to know that that someone else has tried something that maybe you haven't and liked it without having to try it untested. Anyways, there you go. So that's the end of my show and tell. So, whips, works in progress. What have I been working on? I've been working on quite a lot of stuff. I should mention, first of all, normally I do this in the introduction. If you don't know, I am also a member of another podcast, a knitting podcast called The Fiber Friends. And there are three of us, Louise and Adrian and myself, and we are really, really, really good friends. And I've been incredibly lucky to have them in my life, as well as a whole group of stitchers that I've met through Thread and I, stitchers and knitters in my hometown in London. And if you have a similar group of friends like that, you'll know how lucky I am, because as an adult, it can be very difficult to make new friends, especially friends who share this particular passion, because it can be, how to put this? shall I call them muggles? Is that rude to call them muggles? People who don't craft, people who don't stitch or knit or sew or crochet or create with their hands, tend to think that it's less than, or something that is silly, or you must have a lot of time on your hands to do that, and oh, isn't that nice, or that's something that my grandma used to do. And meeting other women and men who share a similar passion about what we do is very special, and I treasure those friendships. And I've met a lot of friends through Instagram, all over the world, stitchers and knitters, and you know who you are. And I could go on for 10-15 minutes and list all of your names, because I have been incredibly lucky to meet friends worldwide. So if you're not a member of the Instagram crafting community yet, I highly recommend it. Finding people who have pictures of their projects and their life that you are drawn to and find something in common with. It's a really unique place, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope to see you over there. So anyways, the Fiber Friends podcast. So it's a knitting podcast, and we are just today, it's August 1st, and today we are starting a knit along for a shawl pattern, or actually any pattern, by a Canadian knitwear designer, Lisa Much of NBK Knitting. And all of her patterns are stunning. And if you are a knitter, you are so welcome to join us. If you look at the Fiber Friends podcast, we also have a Ravelry group under the same name, Fiber Friends Podcast. And we're a lot of fun. We think, you'd probably like to join us. And the knit along starts today for any Lisa Much pattern. But that being said, because I'm also involved in another podcast, I do a lot of knitting. So trying to find time for both things that I love to do, knitting and stitching. And in fact, when we started the Fiber Friends podcast, I tried to incorporate my stitching into that podcast, and there just wasn't enough time, because the three of us yak too much that it sort of got overshadowed. And that's why I started this podcast, because I love talking about my stitching. So I work on what I can when I can. So I probably don't make as much progress on my projects as some other really prolific stitchers out there, but I do love what I do, and I hope you enjoy seeing my projects and maybe find a little bit of inspiration to start something of your own. I know also that I have a few viewers who have started watching this podcast who are knitters who would like to learn how to stitch, and that just thrills my little heart to bits, because I don't think there's anything better than hearing that someone wants to learn a craft that you love, and how fast can I get you a needle and thread and some fabric, because hang on to your hats, enjoy the ride. So I know one knitter that I've talked to recently on Instagram. Her name is Mary, and she is wanting to learn to stitch. And so if there are other knitters who are watching this podcast who don't know where to start, I'm going to suggest a website called Peacock and Fig, and I will put the link. I'll put the link on the screen. Peacock and Fig has some beginner cross stitch how-to videos, and I had Mary go and have a look at them, and she reported back that they are really very helpful, because sometimes it's hard to know whether something is going to be helpful for a beginner when you're not a beginner yourself. If you're coming at it from knowing nothing, is there enough information there for you to get started? And she says that that so far things are looking quite promising. So if you're interested in that, I hope you'll check them out And if you're a stitcher with lots of experience and you have a friend who wants to learn, I hope you'll take the time and you know, maybe carve out an afternoon of a special afternoon and sit and teach them how to stitch, because it's a lot of fun. Okay, so moving on, my works in progress. Since I last saw you, I've worked on a couple of things that I have shown you here before. The first one was my Prairie Schooler Red-winged Blackbird. This was the one that I sort of had a little beef with the pattern. This design is the one that I'm doing right now. Eventually, I'll do all four because I think they're the most beautiful, sort of vintagey looking birds that I've seen, and I love them. So the red-winged blackbird, and I have, if you'll remember, because I didn't like the pattern, I had blown it up to 200% on my photocopier, and you can see how much I've done. There you go. So, ta-da! Quite a bit more. And I can't work on this one for more than about half an hour at a time because it is a lot of DMC 645 and DMC 844. 844 is the darker color. Whoops. That's the darker color, and that's most of the bird. And then 645, this one I don't have wound up. 645 is the sort of the lighter gray in there. And there's a lot of it. And all of this is still all that to go. And then again, there's a little bit more at the tip of the wing, and then the bottom of the bird here. And then I can get into the sort of twigs and berries and the colorful part of it. But I'd like to get the sort of monotonous part of it out of the way first before I have some fun with color. So anyways, it's coming. It's coming along slowly and surely. So that's my Prairie Schooler. And what else? Oh yes, Quaker Diamonds. Quaker Diamonds. Oh, I love this piece so much. So much. And I am still mostly up here. I haven't, and in fact, I concentrated on this motif up there. I had the outside kind of done. So what I did was I filled in most of the inside, and look, I should have just finished that little bit before I showed you, but I thought if I put off recording this podcast any longer, I won't get it done. So it's not quite finished, but it's getting there. So my colors, I'm using HDF silks, hand-dyed fibers silks. These are no longer sold, and they've been in my, this has been in my stash for a number of years now. So my letters are slightly lighter than the original pattern, but I quite like it. I think they're quite nice. It's a little subtle, and I love that bird at the top. And so there's a matching bird on this side, and I'm gonna finish the top, across the top first, and then go down. So, so there you go, Quaker Diamonds. Little bit of progress on that, and a little bit of, oh yeah, okay. So the last whip that I have to show you that I have shown before on this podcast is my Northern Expressions Shades of Wine. And I left the cover photo at home because I talked about this one last week along with, or 2 weeks ago, with Shades of Blue. And the cover photos I left at home. So if you would like to look at the entire pattern, and I recommend that you do because you will fall in love with all of Northern Expressions designs, you can find them all online. And I know Kathy and Neil sell them frequently as well because it's a very popular Canadian designer. She doesn't live all that far away from us in London. And so we're lucky to be able to have her patterns close by. So I stitched this piece. It doesn't look like I did very much, and really I didn't, because it's so tiny. This is 40 count. It's one thread, one thread over two on 40 count white linen. And so I was bombing along. I really wanted to finish all the way across to the top. And then I realized that I'd made a pretty big mistake right here. You can see it doesn't match the other side. I went out one stitch too far. But of course I used that to count the start of my butterfly on this side. So this little bit of butterfly is wrong, and this little bit of stitching here is wrong. So I have to rip all of that out and then restitch it. And at that point I was disheartened with it because I don't have a lot of stitching time and I like to see progress when I'm doing it. So I put it aside and I started working. That's when I picked back up my ABC houses and finished that instead of trucking along with this. So I have to rip that out and fix it. And hopefully I'll do that in the next few days. Now the other Northern Expressions piece that I have shown you before is my shades of blue. And that is probably the #1 most popular piece that I have ever shown. I have had more comments on the shades of blue than anything else that I've shown. And I can understand why, because it is stunning. These designs use dinky dyes threads, and I am using the silks that are called for. And the shades of blue is astonishingly beautiful. I have not worked on it since the last time I showed it, so I don't have it here to show you today, but I do know that I will have it to show you next time because I can't stay away from it for that long. So Shades of Wine needs to be repaired, and that really is the last. So those 4 things were really what I worked on since I saw you last time: the houses, the bird, Quaker diamonds, and the Shades of Wine. So I have one last thing to show you today because I would like to be able to sneak in a little extra each episode from my stash pile that, you know, I am tossing it up and I am rooting through it to pull out all of those beautiful things that I have, that I've put so much time and effort and money into these gorgeous things, and it's a shame that they are sitting neglected and not having even, you know, a little bit of time spent stitching them. So each episode I would like to bring out at least one new thing that I haven't shown you before. So this week I brought up with me, I don't know about you, but I love stitching winter and Christmas scenes, especially old-fashioned Santas. And I don't know of many designers who do Christmas better than Prairie Schooler, because her Santas are my favorite Santas. So the designs that I'm doing are the Prairie Schooler Woodland Santas. And this is book number 96. Yeah, 96. I don't know if it's out of print or in print, or I did not check that before I started recording this podcast. But I am stitching all 4 of these Santas on one piece of fabric vertically. So I have finished the one with the partridge, the pheasant, sorry, not partridge, the pheasant. So there, that's the one I have finished. Isn't it amazing? I adore these designs. No back stitching, not 100 million colors, DMC, just simple, really appealing design. And I mean, how cute are those bunnies? Just really, really sweet. Okay, so I finished the one with the pheasant and I have started the next one up, which one is it? I think it's the one with the reindeer. This one. That's the one that's next. So I brought this with me fully intending to put a little bit more work into it in the next week while I'm up here. Because, well, it's too beautiful to sit in my closet. Don't you agree? I thought you would. So there you go. That's from my stash pile. And hopefully the next time you see it, it will be a lot further along. And that's it. That's all I had for the main part of the episode today. I did my show and tell. I showed you my whips. I did my funny little joke at the beginning and had the giveaway for a grateful thread. So the only thing left is my shop update. So we'll do that. We'll do that now. So shop update. My shop with my sister-in-law is on Etsy. It's called Evertote, and you can find us by just typing in www.evertote.com. We make knitting bags and stitching project bags, all different kinds of shapes and sizes. Drawstring bags, open top, over the arm style knitting bags that have no zip or closures or anything. Wedge style bags and small notions tote. Sometimes I'll do a set with a wedge tote with a matching notions pouch with it and offer them. The way that we like to do it is, because this is a small business for us, we both have other jobs. Kathy is a full-time, she's the head of a music department at her high school, and I, as you may know, teach private music lessons at home, and I also do data entry work for my husband's retail store in London. And so this is something that we are doing together on the side, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience being able to work together with her, with Kathy. We're the best of friends as well as sister-in-laws. But you know, she's the best sister you could have asked for. So to show you today, I will start with a cross-stitch project bag that I did since the last episode. So this one is one of my favorite fabrics that I have made wedge totes with before. It's my chevron fabric, and it's a very modern looking bag, and I've used a navy twill, so it's a slightly heavier fabric at the bottom. Think of a pair of pants that you would get from Old Navy that are sort of a dress pant, and that's the type of material that's at the bottom. Sometimes if I use a twill, I'll put it at the top or I'll put it at the bottom. I let the style of the fabric and the color of the zip and where I want to place different things, I let that determine where I put the accent, because I think each bag is it's fun to do it individually. And that's sort of how we work. We might make 3 or 4 of a certain bag, and then that might be it. We'll probably make a different style of bag, or the zip color will be different, or the liner will be different. And that really keeps it fresh and fun for us. And it doesn't then feel like it's sort of, you know, having to crank them out and not put the care and the attention and the love into it. So this really still feels like small craft, you know, using your skill and your eye and making something beautiful and not having it feel like it's old hat. So the lining in this one, I can't remember. Oh yes, I like the lining in this one. Look at that. It's a little surprise on the inside. Isn't that sweet? So we use 100% cotton bat on the inside of the project bags to provide stability and also protection for your projects. And so they are squishy and soft. We do not use interfacing. We have in the past, and I'm sure we will in the future, maybe, you know, for things like handles and straps and things like that. But the wedge totes and the cross-stitch project bags, for now, we prefer the cotton bat on the inside. Fully lined and no exposed seams. The seams are, we think they're pretty well made. So that's the newest one. I have 3 of these up in the shop right now. And so that's that one. The other one, oh, I mentioned that we sometimes will do a matching kit. Now, it's kind of unfair of me to show this to you because I've actually sold this kit already. but I have to show you because it is so cute and I love it. So, ta-da, camping fabric, look at that. And then, so the Notions tote, this you can see how the size is in relation. This is a medium wedge tote. It fits like two to three skeins squished of yarn, a larger shawl project. So you could fit in, what is this? This is an 8-inch Q-snap. If you like a boxed bottom, this just has a cream line. Again, I'm sorry, this one's sold. But this is the style, and then you can see if you like some room in there. The 8-inch square fits inside a wedge tote with room for your pattern and all of your threads and all your good stuff. And the Notions tote is nice to have for your scissors and your, you know, thread heaven if you like to use that, or your hand lotion, all your little extra treats and goodies. So I'm sorry that one is sold, but I do have this one. I have 3 of these in the shop right now, and this fabric, that's the back of it. That's the bottom. Oh, the back end. That's a turtle. Can you see the turtle? This is Tula Pink fabric, and there's a pink twill on the bottom and a pink twill tab on the side, and just a nice light white fabric, and I used an anchor on the inside there. This is a boxed bottom, this one. So that's a wedge tote. This is the medium wedge tote, and we do make a small one as well, but I find the medium is the most popular, so I tend to make the size that sells well. But if you're interested in a smaller one or a larger one, you feel free to message me. This, I also have 2 small Notions totes up in the shop, 1 and 2. This one I love. I like the color of the zip on that one, and look at this liner. Isn't that pretty? It's hard to make these things and then not want to keep them all yourself, because I think, oh, I could put that in there, or I could put that in there. Pink zip, and then there's a light cream floral on the inside of this one. If you would like more than one bag, if you would like a Notions tote combined with your cross-stitch bag, I will always refund excess postage, and I will also, if you buy a Notions tote with a cross-stitch bag or another style bag, I take $5 off the cost of the Notions tote, and it's just a little deal. So you can either message me first before you place your order, or I'm happy to take care of it afterwards and issue a refund. More than one bag, I always, you will, if you buy them directly through Etsy, you will be charged the cost of the shipping through the website, but when I mail the package to you, as soon as I find out how much the postage cost, I always refund the excess, because you know, the shipping on 2 project bags, you'll be paying $20 Canadian, and it does not cost me $20 Canadian. So usually I think the refund on that is about $10 outside of Canada. Shipping within Canada is more expensive for me than shipping outside of Canada. It is a very bizarre thing that Canada Post insists when you mail within Canada, you must send it as a tracked package, and it's quite expensive. Shipping outside of Canada, I have the option to send it not tracked, and it cuts down on the cost substantially. So there you go. There you have it. That's it. That's my shop update. And I think I'm done. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope that you, if you liked it, if you would like to receive notification of when the next episode comes out, if you hit the subscribe button that's below, I believe you'll get an email notification when a new episode is up. If you hit the like button, I so appreciate it. Your likes and your comments on my video they make my day. I get your comments come through on my email, so I can always read them, but I might not be as quick to go online and hit the love button to thank you for your comment until I am back in London and I can use my internet data willy-nilly. Just thank you so very much. And I hope that you've gotten some stitching done while you watched and listened to me natter on today. And I hope that you have plenty of happy stitching ahead. So thank you. Happy stitching.